Jason Voorhees, deadite. Jason Voorhees is a deadite from the Evil Dead universe. For years, fans noticed the Necronomicon Ex Mortis appearing in Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, the 1993 film that showed the ancient Book of the Dead sitting in the Voorhees family basement. Director Adam Marcus confirmed in interviews that this wasn't just an Easter egg. Pamela Voorhees used the Necronomicon to resurrect her drowned son after his death at Camp Crystal Lake, transforming Jason into an Evil Dead demon rather than a simple revenant. Marcus told Horror Geek Life that he wanted to create a mythology, explaining how Jason went from a boy who drowned in a lake to a full-grown unstoppable killer in just months, then to an immortal zombie who can never be killed. The answer was that Jason became possessed by deadite forces, the same demonic entities from the Evil Dead franchise. Marcus stated that Sam Raimi loved the idea. The theory became official canon in the 2007 comic book series Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, published by Wildstorm and Dynamite Entertainment. The comic explicitly shows Pamela Voorhees using the Necronomicon to bring Jason back, confirming he's been a deadite all along. This explains Jason's supernatural strength, his ability to survive any injury, and why he keeps coming back no matter how many times he's killed. Split Universe Connection. M. Night Shyamalan's Split was secretly a sequel to Unbreakable. The 2017 psychological thriller followed Kevin Wendell Crumb, a man with 23 distinct personalities who kidnaps 3 teenage girls. Throughout the film, Kevin's most dangerous personality, called the Beast, displays superhuman strength, speed, and the ability to climb walls. The movie seemed like a standalone story until the final scene. In a diner, patrons discuss the capture of a man with superhuman abilities, and one woman says it reminds her of a man in a wheelchair from 15 years ago. The camera reveals Bruce Willis sitting at the counter as David Dunn from Unbreakable, confirming both films share the same universe. Shyamalan told Yahoo Movies that Kevin's character was actually in early drafts of Unbreakable. The original outlines and first drafts had David Dunn's story cutting back and forth to Kevin's storyline, and the two would eventually meet at a train station. Shyamalan removed Kevin's arc because the film was already long, and the reception to comic book movies was uncertain in 2000. He waited 17 years to tell Kevin's story, essentially making Split the sequel fans never knew they were getting. The revelation led to Glass in 2019, which brought David Dunn, Kevin Wendell Crumb, and Elijah Price together for a climactic finale. Jack Torrance Reincarnation. The photograph at the end of The Shining suggests Jack Torrance was reincarnated. Stanley Kubrick's 1980 masterpiece ends with a haunting image. After Jack freezes to death in the Overlook Hotel's hedge maze, the camera slowly zooms into a black and white photograph hanging in the hotel's hallway. The photo shows a July 4th party from 1921, and standing front and center in a tuxedo is Jack Torrance, smiling among the guests. In a rare interview with French film critic Michel Ciment, Kubrick explained the ending. He stated that the ballroom photograph at the very end suggests the reincarnation of Jack, meaning the protagonist is the reincarnation of a previous guest or staff member who died at the Overlook. Kubrick described it as a kind of evil reincarnation cycle, where Jack is part of the hotel's history. This explains why the ghost of Delbert Grady tells Jack in the bathroom, "You are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker. I should know. I've always been here." Grady himself represents the same cycle. Charles Grady, the previous caretaker who murdered his family, is the reincarnation of Delbert Grady. The Overlook Hotel has the supernatural ability to recall reincarnated versions of its past inhabitants, trapping them in an endless loop of violence. Jack's comment to Wendy that his first visit to the hotel felt like he'd been there before suddenly makes sense. He had been there, in a previous life, and the hotel recognized him. Michael Myers Cult. Michael Myers was controlled by the cult of Thorn. For decades, fans wondered what made Michael Myers seemingly indestructible. The original Halloween films showed him surviving gunshots, stabbings, falls, and even fire. In 1995, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers attempted to explain his supernatural abilities, but the theatrical cut was muddled and confusing. The producer's cut, which leaked online and gained a cult following before its official release, revealed the full truth. Michael Myers was chosen as a child by an ancient cult that worshipped the Celtic rune of Thorn. The cult's leader, Dr. Terrence Wynn, placed the curse of Thorn on Michael, compelling him to kill his entire bloodline as a sacrifice to appease ancient forces and prevent plagues and disasters. The curse grants Michael superhuman strength, resilience, and near immortality. Tommy Doyle, played by Paul Rudd, discovers that the Thorn constellation has appeared every time Michael returns to Haddonfield. The mark of Thorn appears on Michael's wrist, and the producer's cut shows the symbol is also on Dr. Wynn and eventually transfers to Dr. Loomis. The cult reveals that Michael isn't just a man in a mask, he's a cursed vessel for an ancient evil forced to carry out ritual murders. While the Thorn storyline divided fans, it provided the mythology that producers always intended, explaining why Michael Myers can never truly die. Blair Witch time. The Blair Witch can manipulate time. The Blair Witch Project ended with Heather, Mike, and Josh disappearing in the woods after entering Rustin Parr's house, but fans noticed something strange. The official website for the film stated their footage and equipment were found buried under the foundation of a 100-year-old cabin. For the gear to be buried beneath the cabin's foundation, it would have needed to be there before the cabin was built. Fans theorized the Blair Witch transported the filmmakers backward in time. The theory suggested they were sent to the 1940s, when Rustin Parr was actively murdering children, which explains why they ended up in his house, despite it supposedly being in ruins. The 2016 sequel Blair Witch confirmed the witch's time manipulation abilities. In the film, characters enter the woods together, but experience time differently. Two characters separate from the group for what they believe is a few hours, but when they reunite, the others insist days have passed. The witch creates time loops and distorts temporal perception, trapping victims in the woods regardless of when they actually exist. The sequel validates that the original trio likely did travel back in time, becoming victims of Rustin Parr or witnessing his crimes, with their equipment somehow transported through time to be found decades later. By the way, if you're digging this kind of content, I create videos like this all the time. A subscription would really help out. Richie Tozer's secret. Richie Tozer was in love with Eddie Kaspbrak. Readers of Stephen King's It novel noticed subtext suggesting Richie had romantic feelings for his friend Eddie. Richie constantly teased Eddie, called him cute, and showed devastation when Eddie died. When the 2017 film It was released, fans picked up on the same dynamic between Finn Wolfhard's young Richie and Jack Dylan Grazer's Eddie. The theory exploded online, but nothing was confirmed until at Chapter 2 in 2019. Director Andy Muschietti and screenwriter Gary Dauberman made Richie's sexuality explicit. In a flashback, young Richie is shown at an arcade playing Street Fighter with another boy. When the game ends, the boy touches Richie's hand and the moment lingers. Pennywise later taunts Richie about his dirty little secret, threatening to reveal he's gay. The film shows Richie carved his and Eddie's initials into the town's kissing bridge as children. After adult Eddie dies in the final battle, Richie returns to the bridge and recarves their initials while crying. Muschietti told Digital Spy that Stephen King didn't originally intend Richie to be gay, but King loved the addition. King told Vanity Fair that making Richie's love for Eddie explicit was genius because it creates a bookend with the film's opening, which depicts a homophobic hate crime. Muschietti and actor Bill Hader confirmed Richie spent his entire adult life closeted, masking his pain with jokes, and Eddie never knew how Richie felt. Dr. Lawrence Gordon. Dr. Lawrence Gordon survived Saw and became Jigsaw's apprentice. The original Saw film from 2004 ends ambiguously. Dr. Gordon saws off his own foot to escape the bathroom trap, promising his fellow captive Adam that he'll return with help. Gordon crawls into the hallway, and the film cuts away, leaving his fate unknown. For years, fans debated whether Gordon survived or bled to death. Evidence mounted in Saw 2 when a hooded figure with a limp is shown implanting a key behind a victim's eye, a procedure requiring surgical skills. Fans theorized this was Gordon, but the franchise neither confirmed nor denied it for 6 years. Saw 3D, released in 2010 as the supposed final chapter, brought back Cary Elwes to answer the question. The film reveals Gordon crawled to a steam pipe in the hallway and cauterized his leg wound to stop the bleeding. John Kramer found Gordon and nursed him back to health, recognizing that Gordon had learned to appreciate life. Gordon became Jigsaw's most loyal accomplice, using his medical knowledge to help design traps and prepare victims. The film shows Gordon was the surgeon in the Saw 2 scene, the person who selected Dr. Lynn Denlin as a victim in Saw 3 and performed other behind-the-scenes work throughout the series. In the finale, Gordon captures rogue detective Mark Hoffman, chains him in the original bathroom, and seals him inside forever, declaring game over. Fans who theorized Gordon's survival since 2004 were completely vindicated. Xenomorph Skull Easter Egg. The Predators hunt xenomorphs as trophies. In Predator 2, released in 1990, Detective Mike Harrigan boards a Predator spaceship during the climactic battle. As he explores the ship, the camera reveals a trophy room filled with skulls from the Predator's hunts. Among the collection of alien skulls is an unmistakable xenomorph skull from the Alien franchise. Fans immediately recognized the elongated cranium and teeth structure. The Easter egg sparked theories that predators and xenomorphs existed in the same universe, and that the Yautja species hunted xenomorphs for sport. Director Stephen Hopkins and producers confirmed the xenomorph skull was an intentional nod, not just a random prop. The inclusion laid groundwork for crossover potential, and fans debated for years whether it would lead to anything. In 2004, Alien vs. Predator brought both species together on screen, confirming the shared universe. The film Aliens vs. Predator established that predators use xenomorphs as the ultimate test for young hunters completing their rite of passage. Comics and video games further expanded the relationship between the species, showing centuries of encounters. The single skull glimpsed in Predator 2 validated fans' speculation and launched an entire crossover franchise. Final Destination Loop. Final Destination 5 is a secret prequel. The 2011 film follows a group of coworkers who cheat death after escaping a bridge collapse. Throughout the movie, fans noticed odd details. The technology seemed outdated, featuring flip phones instead of smartphones. The dates mentioned didn't quite match the established Final Destination timeline. Fans online began theorizing the film actually took place before the original Final Destination from 2000. The film's twist ending confirmed everything. After defeating Death's design, survivors Sam and Molly board a plane to Paris feeling victorious. As they settle into their seats, Sam notices the flight number, 180. He recognizes the name of a teacher, Ms. Luton, from the news. Suddenly, a fight breaks out between two passengers, and Sam realizes with horror he's witnessing the events from the opening of the first Final Destination film. He and Molly were on Flight 180 all along, meaning they were always doomed to die. The film cuts to the plane exploding, revealing Final Destination 5 takes place in 2000, chronologically before the entire franchise. The camera then shows all 5 films' death tallies, with Final Destination 5's deaths now listed first. The perfect loop means the franchise can be watched with the 5th film as the starting point. Fans who caught the timeline discrepancies and theorized about the prequel twist had been right all along, and the reveal remains one of the most shocking moments in horror franchise history. Kirby Reed's survival. Kirby Reed survived Scream 4. In the 2011 film, Kirby is stabbed twice by Charlie Walker and collapses on the ground. The film never explicitly shows her death, but she's left bleeding out as the action moves elsewhere. When Deputy Dewey arrives at the aftermath, he tells survivor Jill Roberts that Sydney is alive, but doesn't mention Kirby's status. Fans argued this ambiguity meant Kirby survived. They theorized that family confidentiality laws prevented Dewey from disclosing Kirby's medical status to someone who wasn't a relative. The debate raged for over a decade, as plans for Scream 5 stalled. When Scream finally arrived in 2022, 11 years after Kirby was last seen, the film included a subtle Easter egg. During a scene, the camera briefly shows a YouTube video on a computer screen. The video is an interview with a woman discussing the Woodsboro murders, and the caption identifies her as Kirby Reed, confirming she survived. Fans erupted online, vindicating years of theories. Scream 6, in 2023, brought Hayden Panettiere back to reprise the role in person, with Kirby now working for the FBI. She references surviving Charlie's attack, explaining she was in the hospital while Jill Roberts' rampage continued. The franchise listened to fans who refused to believe Kirby died, and her return became one of the series' most celebrated moments. Sydney and Mark. Sidney Prescott married Mark Kincaid. In Scream 3 from 2000, Sidney receives help from LAPD detective Mark Kincaid, played by Patrick Dempsey. Throughout the film, the two develop chemistry. With Mark clearly attracted to Sidney, the film ends, with Mark joining Sidney, Gail, and Dewey to watch a movie together, suggesting a potential double date and romance. However, Mark never appears or is mentioned in Scream 4 in 2011, leading fans to assume the relationship didn't work out. 22 years after Scream 3, the franchise's 5th installment arrived in 2022. Early in the film, Dewey calls Sidney to warn her about a new Ghostface. During their conversation, Sidney mentions she's married with children and refers to her husband as Mark. Fans immediately theorized this was Mark Kincaid from Scream 3. Directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett confirmed in interviews with Entertainment Weekly that Sidney's husband is indeed Patrick Dempsey's character. Bettinelli-Olpin stated explicitly Mark Kincaid when asked. The revelation meant Sidney and Mark reconnected sometime after Scream 4, fell in love, married, and started a family together. Neve Campbell admitted in interviews she didn't even realize the Mark reference was about Dempsey's character when filming her scenes. Fans who shipped Sidney and Mark since 2000 finally got confirmation their relationship became endgame. Pet Sematary Switch. The 2019 Pet Sematary remake killed Ellie instead of Gage. Stephen King's novel and the 1989 film version both feature toddler Gage Creed being killed by a speeding truck before his father Lewis resurrects him in the cursed burial ground. When trailers for the 2019 remake were released, observant fans noticed something different. Marketing materials showed young Ellie Creed at her birthday party, and glimpses suggested she might be the one who dies instead of Gage. Online forums exploded with theories that the filmmakers swapped which child dies. When the film was released, the theory was confirmed. During Ellie's 9th birthday party, both children end up in the road when an Orinco tanker truck barrels toward them. Lewis saves Gage, but Ellie is struck and killed. Directors Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmeyer confirmed to Entertainment Weekly they made the change deliberately. They explained that having an 8-year-old return from the dead created more psychological horror than a toddler could provide. Dennis Widmeyer stated that Ellie would understand what happened to her on the road, would know she's dead, and could psychologically destroy her family in addition to physically harming them. Producer Lorenzo de Bonaventura added that Gage was too young to do much dramatically, but Ellie's age allowed them to explore the horror of a child who comprehends her own death and resurrection. Stephen King approved of the change, calling it a nice twist for fans with preconceived expectations. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing so you catch every new video. Thanks for watching.